Well, I have Audi's latest addition to its Q5 range. This is the 55 TSI-E, but the E stands for plug-in hybrid. And what that means is that this has both a petrol and an electric motor. But with all these pure EV cars coming out these days, I'm here to find out why a plug-in hybrid makes sense. So let's check it out. With plug-in hybrids, you actually have two motors that the car has to kind of drag around with it. But on the plus side, this will give you a 55-kilometer range to run on full electric mode, which is great for driving around the city. Second, you don't have to worry about range anxiety compared to a normal electric car, meaning that you can go out for long country drives and you can just fill it up as normal. And lastly, and what I love the most about this is with the combined motors, this is actually the most powerful Q5 you can buy. So this is even more powerful than the SQ5, which is the range-topping sport model. So you're getting lots of fun driving too. Underneath the bonnet, we have a 4-cylinder 2.0-liter petrol motor. It's 195 kilowatts plus 370 Newton meters of torque. Then there's an electric motor further down, sort of towards the transmission, and that one is a 105 kilowatt motor, and it will do 350 Newton meters of torque. So when it's all combined and working together, you get 270 kilowatts as well as 500 Newton meters of torque, so lots of pulling power. So Audi gives you all of the charging cables you need, including home charging as well as public charging. And the battery actually sits underneath this sort of parcel shelf here. But it's not that big of a battery because a plug-in hybrid doesn't really need it. So this one is 14.4 kilowatts and it will charge up in just 2.5 hours. And that will give you, like I was saying before, about 50 to 55 kilometers of full electric driving. And I think that's just great for hopping around town, getting the groceries, and then maybe plugging it in and giving it a quick top up. So the Q5 hybrid comes in two different body shapes. So this is a sport back one, and I quite like the slope back. It's kind of sporty looking. There's also the more conventional one with a squared off back and a bit more storage back there. But otherwise, both model variants come in S-line as standard. So what that means is that you get the more sporty styling. Up front, you've got a stylish grille. You've got the sort of the different front fascia as well. But when you move towards the wheels, there is some exclusivity here. You are getting red brake calipers as standard. These are the larger discs. As well as that, you get the sort of exclusive 5-spoke, 2-color rim design, which is very nice with the sort of shiny as well as painted sides. And then moving back towards the petrol cap, I actually like this. The petrol flap is on one side, and then you get the electric charging port, the Type 2 port, on the other side. So you got one on either one to think about. And then you also get a more sporty top spoiler here. And moving towards the back of the vehicle, you got, of course, the TFSI-E badging. And there are no exhaust pipes visible on the Sportback model, which is kind of interesting because you do see the exhaust pipes on the standard model. So I don't know, depending on which look you like, you have a choice. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice when you start up the hybrid model is that the car doesn't vibrate, you don't hear the motor, and that's because it does start up in full EV mode. And from there, as you continue to drive, then it starts to work the petrol engine in to add more power. So we're gonna go for a bit of a spin, so off we go. So inside the car, it's a nice place to be. I won't go into all the details here because this is pretty much the same as your standard Q5. So there's really not a lot of differences between the hybrid model other than some of the technology that you have access to via the screens. Look, in terms of going through the bends, we had a drive yesterday as well as today. The car is quite planted, it's quite confident, especially in dynamic mode. What I do notice is there is some body roll, definitely, but that's something that you're going to get on most SUVs. But it's good fun, and it certainly does have some great roll holding capabilities. Look, you get plenty of standard features in this model, lots of safety features, cross-traffic alert, 360-degree camera. Otherwise, I love the nice sunroof is quite large and it makes it quite a nice bright place to be inside. So yeah, Audi's usual virtual cockpit is here with a slightly different setup here for the plug-in hybrid. So I have a sort of a tachometer type of thing. But really it's about, it's giving me sort of a percentage of the power delivery here. It will tell me too if I'm putting energy back into the battery through sort of some of the different coasting modes. So what we have is a green indicator when we're driving sort of in electric power, and then if we put the pedal down like so, a bit of a delay, but then it kind of kicks into the sort of the yellow zone, which is more petrol and electric combined. So there is regenerative braking, but you don't have the standard sort of EV type of regenerative braking where you can decide whether you want to do one pedal driving, or when you take your foot off the brake entirely, it does a lot of aggressive braking. With this one, you don't really know how much of your braking is actual real and how much is sort of that regenerative braking, and that's sort of the whole idea. It just drives like a normal car. So when I press the brake right now, it might be using some regenerative and then into the actual steel brakes itself too. And the whole idea there is just to try to put some energy back into the battery. So what I really wanted to discover with this car is whether or not it feels like you're driving something that has two different motors. You know, do you feel it switch over? Is it obvious? And I can say that really it just feels like it's a normal petrol car when you drive it, other than when you start out and it's in EV mode and it silently creeps away. You don't really hear the motor that much, but it still feels like a petrol motor. When you put the pedal down, like so, there is a bit of delay before it kicks in, which again feels like sort of your standard sort of gear kick down, and then the acceleration gets quite a bit stronger. So you don't have that real direct pull like you would with an EV. So, you know, for some people that's probably a good thing because it really does feel more like you're just driving a petrol car, but with the amazing, you know, efficiency that you get from an EV. This is cool going down hills. That means I'm putting energy back into the battery. The little speedometer indicator is saying that I am charging. I've got my foot completely off the accelerator, and what it's doing is it's doing some braking, kind of keeping me at a constant speed, and that's feeding energy back into the battery. So you do get the Quattro Ultra sort of drivetrain in this model. And what the Ultra means is that it can disconnect the rear two wheels from the Quattro system, or the all-wheel drive, when it needs to. But the good thing is that it always defaults to all-wheel drive, and it's only in certain circumstances, like if you're in stop traffic or a very straight road, the way you're driving, for example, that it will actually disengage the rear two wheels to help, I guess, improve your efficiency. So I've taken a bit of a break to talk about the different driving modes for this plug-in hybrid, and that's really what sets it apart. So basically there's just a switch here beside the Audi Drive Select, which enables these different driving modes. So there's a full electric driving mode where you're just relying on the electric motor, but because that's only 105 kilowatts, you still have an option for when you really press the pedal down, it'll switch back to adding in the petrol motor, so you're getting more power, but you can drive on full electric. The sort of adaptive automatic hybrid mode is the one that I use the most. It's called Auto Hybrid, and what that does is it uses a lot of information from your map planning, so using the GPS, your route planning. It uses sensors, what it knows about the road, and then it figures out how to use both motors in the best combination to give you the fuel efficiency that you want. Plus, if you start driving aggressively or switch into a dynamic mode, it will adapt to that as well, so it can feed as much energy back into the battery and use it when it's needed. After that, there's a mode that just keeps the battery at a set level. So if the battery is 50%, it will just keep it there. So it will rely on the petrol motor when it needs to keep that battery charge constant. And the last one is to put as much energy back into the battery as possible, or to charge the battery. And what that does is it actually uses the petrol motor to then convert the fuel into the generator to then charge up the battery. So it would be the least fuel efficient, but if you wanted to sort of charge up that battery without having to stop and plug it in somewhere, whether it's at a public charge or overnight, you can kind of convert your petrol into battery charge that way. Why would you want to do that? Well, maybe you've got a drive the next morning and you want to do lots of EV driving around a city, so you want to sort of top up the battery, for example. So it's good to have that option too. You know, this isn't Audi's first hybrid. Back in 1989, they had the Audi Duo. So this was a hybrid vehicle. They had just 10 made. I think it had a 9 kilowatt electric motor. and it could do up to 50 kilometers per hour, but for really short periods, I think like about a 10-minute drive or something like that. So Audi's come a long way with its hybrid vehicles since then, but this definitely isn't the first one. So compared to the SQ5, when I was doing some driving yesterday, you certainly feel a lot of peppiness in the city. It certainly feels just as fast. I think the SQ5 is 0 to 100 in 5.1 seconds. This is 0 to 100 in 5.3 seconds. But it's really, the SQ5 definitely is more sporty at the top end. It has a higher top speed, probably less weight as well. We're not sure what the weight is this yet. Maybe I can put it on screen when we find out. But overall, you know, you still definitely do feel a good sportiness in this vehicle compared to the SQ5. So now I just have to find my way back. Well, I've really enjoyed my time with the plug-in hybrid version of the SQ5, and the drive's been really fun too. But I guess the question is, who is this car for, and does plug-in hybrid even make sense these days? Well, look, I think this is perfect for people who aren't really ready to jump into a full EV vehicle. Maybe they live in a place where they have to do some longer drives, or they're just not quite sure whether electric is right for them, but still want some of the benefits that it can deliver. Pricing-wise, the Sportback model starts at about $108,000, where the standard model starts at just over $102,000. You do get a 5-year warranty, which is great to see on these vehicles, as well as a longer 12-year warranty on the body in terms of corrosion as well, so you're taken care of there. In a lot of ways, this gives you the best of both worlds. You're getting a car that's packaged, it's a mid-sized SUV, it's practical, but it's also luxurious. And you're also getting the performance of a 6-cylinder top-of-the-range SQ5 with only a 4-cylinder motor that really just sips petrol. And with a combined petrol and electric, you're getting an amazing 2 liters per 100 kilometers range, which is pretty amazing. For those that want to go for a full EV, Audi's SQ6 is coming out next year. However, what this is doing is it's giving people another option when they're interested in the Q5. And this one obviously is more economical from a fuel consumption point of view, but giving you lots of performance as well. And that's why I think that a plug-in hybrid today still makes a lot of sense, especially in Australia, and it's a great choice for those that are looking for something that gives you the best of both worlds.